Okay guys, welcome to this video on how to create the layered images from a photograph, which is probably not strictly true. I'm just using the photograph as a guide. Now this video will probably be across several sessions, just because of the time it would take, and I'm liable to get phone calls halfway through because I'm meant to be working at the moment. So bear with me. The first thing you want to do is upload your photo onto your canvas. Now I'm using iPad here. And I'm using this photo here because I've been asked to help somebody with this one. That's why I'm using this as a guide. I'm not going to use any removal tools or anything. And I'm just going to save it as a print and cut. I'll just call it a church and upload it onto my canvas. Size-wise, it's quite tiny, so I'm just going to make that a bit bigger. Size doesn't really matter at this point because you'll be resizing it once you're finished. Okay, so there's your photo there, 2D. You're going to try and make this into a semi sort of 3D or a layered two-dimensional, I suppose you might want to call it. There's a bit of trial and error with these. Some of them may take forever to do. Some of them may be a bit quicker. You can also use elements of the photograph when you upload it if you need to cut a specific shape out. But generally speaking, I just use shapes. So what I'm going to do is just get a square first of all. I tend to only use squares. Let's just make this, let's unlock that. Let's just make this a different shape. When you start, it's difficult to say where to start. I tend to start with a big element and go from there. But how you do it, I suppose, is up to yourself really. But I'm going to start with the sort of the bulk part of the church. So what I'm going to do is just take my shape and just put it as close to the edge as I can. I'll duplicate that and put it on the back edge. Now we'll assume there's a roof overhang, but possibly don't need it. And then duplicate that shape. And just spin it around a bit. I'm going to switch off the smart guides though. And I'll just line this up. You're just using your eye here. And the way these are painted, you don't need to be horrendously accurate. Now I think what I'll do is just ignore the steeple part there, and I'll just go with this. So let's duplicate that again. We'll make it a bit longer and spin it around a bit. And line that up with the roof. And we're going to need another bit at the back there, so let's duplicate this one. And like I say, we'll just zoom in slightly. We're just making sure it's as lined up as it can be. And we'll just do that bit solid. Okay, my phone rang there. I am meant to be working just now, but I decided this was more important. Right, I'm just going to get some more shapes actually. So let's do a couple of duplicates. So I've got a few ready to use. And what I'm going to do this time, we're just going to sort of try and mark out the church underneath. Don't worry about any of the garden or anything like that just now. Get another one. Just try and get your angles as right as they can be. That one looks slightly wrong. So I'm going to do this a little bit slightly differently. Right, I think we're fine there. Right, so this is going to become the first layer, not necessarily in the top position, but what I'm going to do is select it all, group it, because if you don't group it, it moves everything about, which is really annoying, and duplicate it, and then we'll ungroup it, and ungroup that. And what I'm going to do is just move the photo, actually I'm not going to move the photograph out of the way, I'm going to select all of these, just so I've got it in the right position. I'm just going round and selecting them all, and I'm going to weld that. Right, now the reason I've duplicated it will become clear in a second. What I'm going to then do is contour out the outside, and that leaves me with that shape there. Okay, now the reason I've duplicated it is quite important. is because I want the shape at the top to be exactly the same. So we're now going to create the roof part. So we're going to need some more shapes. So let's duplicate that a couple of times. And might actually need a triangle here. You've kind of just got to play about until you get sort of what you need. So I'm going to have get that the right angle. Once I get the right angle, yes, that's fine. So I'm going to take another shape, square this time, and I'm just going to slice that. And that should hopefully fit in there. Yes. And take this shape here, I'll have to zoom in slightly. And we're just going to get this one lined up. I'm doing this entirely by eye, and that's all I would recommend that you do. Yes, I think that's good there. I'll take this sliced triangle and we'll try and get that shaped there. That looks good. No, maybe not quite. Looks a bit better there. And I'm going to lock that so I can resize it. That looks fine. Right, what I'm going to do is move that out the way this time, and I'm just going to weld these top bits and then contour that out. So that leaves me with hopefully the roof. Like that. Okay, now I need to stop recording now because work calls, but I will be back in just a second and you won't notice any difference. Okay, I got interrupted by another phone call there. I'm back. You won't have noticed any difference, hopefully, other than the screen might jump about a little bit. Right, okay, so we've got the basic shape of the church. Now, we'll probably add more layers to this. In fact, we will add more layers to this, possibly another 2. We'll see. We're now going to try and do the steeple part. So I'll take my shape that I've already got here. Let's make that a bit smaller. Let's unlock it first, though. That'll make it easier. Right, let's just zoom in. So this is where it starts to get a tiny bit more complicated, I suppose, because we're looking at more of the detail. So let's just duplicate that. Of course, this steeple wouldn't be straight up and down, would it? Right, you'll notice I'm just popping it under this sort of wee line here. Let's duplicate that again. So that'll be the edge. I'll make that a bit smaller. We don't need it so big. And duplicate that again for there. Hopefully you can see kind of what I'm doing. Now I've got the option here of doing the square, the larger part separately, but I think I'm just going to do it as one. So let's duplicate this one. And we'll duplicate that again to do the other side. And we'll duplicate that again. Now we need this, oh, undo. Put it right around so I can see what I'm doing. Just make sure the corners line up. We'll duplicate that again. And do this side. Let's spin it right round. Use my left hand now. Notice I'm not using the smart guides for this. That's not necessary, and actually would just be annoying. I will need to turn that there. Now, as you can see, I'm not trying to get the exact minute details anywhere. I'm just going to move this one up ever so slightly, though. Yes. Duplicate that. Turn that round a bit. That's looking fine. And then what I'm going to do, because I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do yet, let's just move this out of the way. I don't want to accidentally destroy that. So let's move this out of the way, and I'm going to duplicate this, just so I've got it, and I'm going to weld this. no, I'm not going to weld this. What I'm going to do first is put a shape underneath. There will do. Now I'm going to weld it and contour out the outside. So that will become the steeple part in a minute. So what we're now going to do, we'll just get this in place. And I'm going to take this part, I'll just group it so I don't lose anything. I'm just going to line this up again as accurately as I can. And I'm going to move this out of the way. And now what we're going to do is create the, well, I'll show you. So I'm going to need this one. Oh, ungroup first, Michael. Need this one. I'll duplicate that and we'll pop that there because the angle should be about right. I'll duplicate that and pop that. This one's going to be slightly more awkward because of the way I've lined this up. Let's just turn it ever so slightly. We'll just get that one lined up there. Yes. And then we'll take this one again, we'll duplicate it. And we'll just line it up again as best as we can. And we'll also take this one, duplicate it, and get that popped in there. Maybe take it down just so it's lining up. And I'm going to group this, duplicate it. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to weld this one quickly. And I'm going to contour out all this bits here. So this should give us that bit of detail there. Yes. And then what I'm going to do is because I kind of want, yes, I know what I'm going to do. So let's take this here. This is what I'm saying. It's all a bit trial and error. There's a lot of that. So I'm going to duplicate that once more just so I've got it again. Let's just slice that. And then we're going to contour out that bit and see what happens if we weld this here. Yes. Right. So this will be on here. This will give us a bit of depth. Then that, arrange, bring to the front. That will come there. Now I notice here I've got a couple of niggly bits, which is slightly annoying, but obviously not been paying attention. Or I've got the wrong glasses on probably, I think that's what it is. So that's kind of looking like this steeple. So let's just line everything up again. Yes, I think let's just group them and we'll move them to the front. So you can see how we're getting the shape of the church. Okay, I'm not going to start welding anything yet because obviously we need to weld some of these layers together, or depending on the size you might have to slice some things, you know, if it's going to be a larger than that project. But anyway, we'll come to that in a second. So I'm happy with the steeple. What we could do is add this little pole on the top, I suppose. It looks quite pointed. I wonder if we get a triangle to go small enough. Let's maybe slice a bit off of that. Yes, so I'm just going to pop that there just now. We'll weld it on at some point. We'll try not to forget. I'm going to get rid of that sliced one there. I don't want to use that again. Okay, right. I'm just going to group that and move it to the side. I always keep these bits in case I have to make any changes because that gives me exactly what I need if I need to sort of slice anything else out. So I think actually what we'll do, let's go and we're looking for the back part. So undo, move this piece out the way, and we're just going to select these two and weld them. And that needs to be, bring this to the front. And bring this to the front. And I'm sure you can see why this takes considerable time, especially when it's a more detailed image that you're using. Obviously I deliberately picked one that was fairly simple. Okay, so I think I'm going to weld some layers now, but what I'll do, before I do, is select them, group it, duplicate it and move it to the side. So if I mess anything up, I can easily go back to where I was. And I'm just going to do a quick save just now. Great. Okay, so I am going to pause this video just now. You'll come back in like a millisecond and you won't know I've been away, because I have got other stuff to do. So I'll see you soon. Okay guys, I've actually been away for about 3 hours there, but I'm back now, and I think when I was last on, we were going to weld some bits together. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to move the picture out of the way, and just to be on the safe side, I'm going to duplicate this. And what I'm going to do is ungroup it first, take away the roof, that little bit there, and that bit, and we can weld this, which is fine. What you will find when you're doing these pictures is that you constantly have to keep checking your layers are okay, because things will go wrong, of course they will. So that's looking fine there. Now, because I know this one's lined up, I'm actually going to get rid of that because I don't really need that now. You've got to kind of think about your layers, how they're sort of laid out. So I'm just going to see how this works actually. Because if we look at this now, if we put move this forward, actually that might be okay there. I'm trying to do this one not too detailed. Let's move this forward as well. I may do something with the roof though. I was just thinking about that just now. Just make sure this is lined up as best we can. Yeah, I think that's actually okay. I'll just get rid of that because I know we've got a spare one there. Right, so let's change the colour of this just so we can see it a bit better. Let's go with a light brown orange colour. So it is kind of looking like what it should look like. Plenty more we can do. So now that I'm looking at this and I'm thinking this pointed bit at the top here, on top of the spire, should actually be further, it's a layer behind, which makes me think we should do this. So let's duplicate this again just so I've got a spare one to work with. Ungroup this. Move all these bits out the way. And let's keep that as well just in case we need it again, but we'll duplicate it. So you can see every time I'm making a change I'm duplicating so that I've got spares. And let's just get this lined up. I'm going to put on the smart guides for this one, because this is just going to line up at the bottom. But I'll move the one with the pointy bit out of the way, and we'll weld this. Change the colour. So this will now not be at the back, but let's send it to the back. And then send it to the back and then bring it forward slightly. Because what we'll want to see, bring it forward, bring it forward. Of course that wouldn't work, would it? Let's try it a different way. So we want that one to the back. So if you can see, let's just put something at a point. Where the triangle's pointing to there, you can see that line there. So that would be a sort of highlighted line when you've painted it. So that's why I've moved that to the back, and it just creates a bit more dimension on that one. Right, so let's get this put back together. Undo. I'm going to switch off the smart guides again because there'll be a complete pain for getting this lined up. Ugh. Right. Oh, me. So I think we're good to go again. Let's group that just now, just for moving it about. Send the picture to the back again. So I'm quite happy with the shape of the church now. I don't think we need to do anything else with the roof, but you could do a bit more detail with the eaves and the barge boards, things like that. But I don't really think it's necessary. But the church does have windows, so we should create windows, definitely. Two ways of doing it. You can do it by using your shapes around the outside, which is normally how I would do it. But when it's a rounded window, that's not quite so easy. So I think we should probably try and do it differently. So let's take a circle. Now remember, we're not going for architectural accuracy here. We're really not. We're going for, actually, is it close enough? That's kind of what we're going for. So let's just make this look like it's about right. Then we'll take another square and we're going to make it the same width. So 0.92, 0.92. Should have changed the size here first. Right, let's select the two of them and we'll just align them horizontally. But then what we'll do is take that one and then slice. You keep having to zoom out because it always picks up the picture again. We'll get rid of that bit and that little bit there. That'll be the sliced part. And then we will weld that. So that's one of our windows. Now hopefully, if I duplicate this and flip it, we might just be lucky and make it work for the opposite side. Which I think we're just going to be quite lucky with that. So that's one of the two of the windows done. We'll just leave them where they are just now, and then we'll sort out what we do with it after that. Now for the other windows, now the big hotel that I did the windows in sort of 3 layers. This one, because it's quite small, I think we'll just do the round openings. So let's start with now bear in mind we've got steps here. Right, okay, I'm just having to think what we're going to do here. So let's do it this way. Let's just duplicate that to make that fit. So we're going to need a circle. In the same width. So this is 1 centimeter wide. So let's make that 1 centimeter wide. Maybe do 1 centimeter. And let's align them. Align horizontally. And we'll weld them right away. And we need another circle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video and I'll do the rest of the windows so you don't have to sit and watch me doing all of this. We need that to be 1.2 centimeters wide. 1.2, and I'm sorry I'm working in centimeters, but center horizontally. Select the two of them and we'll weld them. Okay, so I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to do the 4 windows down the side of the church as well. And the little one in the top, this little semicircle one there, and then we're going to slice them out of the main church. So there's no point you watching me doing another 4 windows. So we'll see you just in a second actually. Okay, so I've now created the windows that we need. So let's just move the picture out of the way. We'll still have a bit of playing about with these actually, but I'm going to weld these together, so I'm going to be able to slice them out of this. So we're going to ungroup this, and we're going to take the top layer, so the one without the pointed bit, and get the windows lined up in front of the picture first. Let me zoom in so we can see. Looks good there. And then we'll get the church in place. So let's just move that out of the way and we'll slice. So that should now give us the church with the windows, which is great. Now I'm going to keep one of them just in case. I'll get rid of that bit there as well. So when I pop this back here, send it back a bit. Send backward, might have to send it back a wee bit. There we are. So we're now kind of looking like the church. Maybe that front window isn't perfectly lined up, but actually, you know what? Once it's painted, it'll look fine. So we can now see that the church is taking shape, slowly but surely. And actually, I probably wouldn't do much more to the church itself. You could, if you wanted, start making the windows like the mullions and transoms within the windows themselves, if you wanted to. Not necessary, of course, but I mean, like I say, I did it for the Ardshiel Hotel. I didn't do it for the Torrance Hotel, the most recent one that I did. But anyway, so that's the church. Next thing you need to do is decide how you want to do round about it. And I noticed there are steps in this church right at the front here. And part of me thinks that I should try and create the steps. Possibly not all of them, just some of them. But depending on how you're doing this picture, let's just group that. And actually I'm going to duplicate that just in case. For this one, I would want to create some sort of landscaping, representative landscaping, I suppose you might want to say. And this looks like it would work quite well with a sort of, almost a sort of semicircles. So if I take a circle here, let's unlock it. I might just have to play about with this a little bit. Let's duplicate that. Duplicate it again. Now I'm not worried about this not lining up there, but let's weld this. And what I'm then going to do is take a square, and we're going to make it the same size as the picture itself, and we'll assume that the picture is going to be the finished size. What's that hiding in there? We don't need that there. What size is the picture? 29.21 by 21.91. So they should now be the same size. Let's go to layers and find, because it's never going to let me. And let's slice that right away. And I can get rid of all that and that. So let's move our church back into place. Get that into place. I kind of need another little bit in there. But again, it depends what we do next. So what I'm actually going to do is cheat a little bit and just duplicate this and make it slightly taller. Yes, I'll do it that way. Trying to decide what's best to do here. Let's do this. So let's pop that back in place there. Yes, so let's select the two of them. All I've done there is make sure it meets the bottom of the corner of the church there. Let's weld that. What you then can do here, of course, is use your artistic liberty, and you could actually just, if you duplicated that and just shortened it a little bit, duplicated it again, and change that to 1. You could just kind of go with that, possibly, but I'm going to move them out of the way just now. You know, if you want to do the trees, you can do the trees. Let's just change the colour of this so we know what we're looking at. But what we're going to need to do here is move that out of the way, and I'm going to duplicate that. And what I'm going to do, just to be lazy, is just weld all that, and I'm going to then slice that. The reason for that is that the church will now, once I get rid of this, delete, I can get rid of that there. The church will now fit in there when you've cut it and glued it on, which is kind of what you want. But bear in mind, we've got 2 layers to this church, 2 full layers. Yes, 2, haven't we? Gosh, I can't even remember now. Yes, 2 full layers. So we would need 2 layers of this at least to keep it the same width. Right, we're getting there, slowly but surely. So I'm possibly going to have to pause and have a think about what to do next. But I'm going to attempt to create the steps at the front of the church. I would like to try and create some of the greenery down the side of the church. But if we could, it depends if we can make that, you know, with shapes. I don't want to start adding images. Of course you can. You want to add images if you want. But the style that I do these, I kind of want to only ever use shapes for them, you know. That's kind of the point of them. So I'm going to pause this again and come back, and hopefully I will have created the steps. It'll be very, very simple, but I'll show you how I've done it. But I don't want you to have to sit and watch me doing it, because I think it might take a bit of time. So I will see you just shortly. Okay, I'm back again, and I'm sure the screen's just jumped and you'll see another few bits and pieces being added in. So what I've done, I've just created a few of these bars, half the amount of steps that are actually there, I would think, but this is meant to be representative. I'm not going for masses of detail, if you remember. And what I've done, I've just lined it all up with the landscape piece, and what I'm just going to do is select the 2 of them and weld them together. Now, I've got this ready lined up here, and I've just realised a big mistake I've made. I need another one of these, duplicate. And what I need to do is line up that one there. I need to select the one behind it, wherever it is. Undo, it's not that one. It must be that one. No, it's not that one either. Now, I'll have to do that this way, because I need to make sure this lines up. So bear with me a second. So I'm going to move that one out of the way because I don't want that one. So I'll duplicate that and I'll line it up with the, as you can see there, it's lining up. And I'm going to move it to the back. Right. I can get rid of them. Oh, delete, not duplicate. So this one here, we're going to have the 4 steps, which would all mean 4 layers in front of the church. So what we're going to do, this bit's quite straightforward. We're going to duplicate it once, twice. Let's get rid of that. Come on, pick it up. And duplicate it again. Oh, move that out of the way, duplicate. And what we're going to do is just completely weld the first one. But the second one, we're going to remove the top step, if you like. Delete. And then weld. And then the next one, we're going to remove the top 2 steps. Delete. And delete. And then weld that. And then the last one, we're removing the top, oh, selected too many there. The top 3. And then weld the last one. So hopefully, we should see the differing layers. And then when that goes in front of the church, like that, oh, undo that there, move that again, oh. The steps are in front of the church. Hopefully that kind of looks like what we're hoping it looks like. I think it does. Once it's all painted, cut and painted, it'll be fine. Now, we have got bits behind the church itself. Would I fill them in? You might want to. So what we'll do there is just take a shape. And we're just going to switch off the smart guides. That's kind of where we want to fill in behind the steps. Right, this might be a bit more complicated than I'm hoping it'll be. So let's ungroup that. What layers it picked up? Right, it's picked up the right layer there. So let's move that out of the way. Now let's be cunning here. So let's get that layer and let's duplicate that. And we'll get that lined up. The reason I'm doing this is that this is so I can get all my slice lines right. Because what we actually want to do, once that's lined up, I want to take that one out of the way, and what I want to do is slice this. And then I want to move that. And then I want to take this piece, line that up, get rid of that one, and weld this one. And the reason for doing that is when this goes back here, and I move it backwards, there's not a gap in that windows behind the steps, which is much better. Oh, I need to move it back. Arrange. Yes, there we are. Okay, so let's group that just so we can move it about without worrying about missing bits. So as for the front, I think my initial idea of just using these smaller pieces, I think will work because it's like topography, isn't it? So let's change the colour of these. And we'll group it to bring it all both to the front. Yes, I think I like that. Now, move the pic. Oh, I don't want to move that out of the way. I want to move the picture out of the way, and I want to group this again. So I'm just going to have a look at this for a second and see what else we can do. We could actually just go with that quite happily. But do we want to try and add some more? So I think I will pause recording for a second. I want to have a look at some ideas with maybe adding sort of bushes and things like that, or trees, but I don't think it's really going to work. So I will be back in just a second. Okay, right, I'm back again, hopefully for the last time, because it's kind of just about done. Now, I said whilst I was away there, I was going to have a look at sort of palm trees and bushes and things like that. So I did find a palm tree, which looked more like that one, but I kind of stretched it a little bit. So I kind of sliced off the leaves, stretched the trunk, and so I did a bit of welding back there, and I think it kind of works. I think personally I probably would go without it, but yeah, it just shows that you could use images as well. I'm just going to pop that one, which would kind of be there. But what I would do with this one is not weld it to anything, or weld them to anything, and possibly duplicate them to make them thicker. What then I would do is add them once everything's glued on, if I decided it was going to work. So I'd probably cut maybe sort of 4 different layers, especially for this one here. You'd want more layers because there's 2 layers, 3 layers to the church, and you don't want this sort of bent over the roof of the church. So you might want to do some trimming there if you were going to use them. So I'm just going to move the picture away, the photo away, and that's, if I select the whole thing, let's just make it all the same colour. So that's kind of it. Obviously you could add a bit more trees if you wanted to, and just either add them afterwards. The good thing with these pictures is, of course, especially if they're painted, it doesn't matter if there are joints here and there. In fact, if there's joints, it's quite good. But that's kind of it. Very straightforward design, this one. You would just resize it to suit. I think this one would be fine cutting on a 12 by 12 mat, which is good as well. So what I'm going to do is just get rid of all the excess stuff. What I always do as well is the bits that I've kept, I'm just going to put them to the side there. These ones, I don't really need them. All this stuff I can just get rid of. And that. So at least I've got, if I group that, I will hide it. I've got some sort of backup. I also hide the photo as well because it would stop it from cutting because the photo is too big. And that's it there. So I'm just going to save that, which I've been doing periodically, by the way. So that's the church. So the next part of the video will be me putting the frame together and then gluing. You're not going to see this church going together. I'm not going to cut this, but somebody else hopefully is. And I'm hoping they will share it once they've done it, and they can let me know that it actually works. Because what I find with these is that you don't really know if they're going to 100% work until you've actually cut them. And you can also do things like numbering the layers so you can get them in the right order. Like, for example, the big hotel one that I did, I actually forgot about a whole layer. It worked out to my advantage in the end, which was fine because it was exactly the same as another layer. But yeah, if you number them, then you can't go wrong. Also, lay them out dry. Get all your layers in place, lay it out dry, make sure it looks okay. If you can, flip it over and then work from the back as you're gluing it, and then you won't go wrong. And just be aware of any small parts that you've got. So yeah, that's it. On to the next part of the video.